Hopefully everybody is staying cool wherever they are.
Yeah, we were actually just talking about that. What's the hottest degree it is today? Because Hillary apparently only likes it if it's above 30 degrees Celsius, which I find very intriguing.
That's kind of nuts, Hillary.
Yeah, I'm just really cold averse, I think, more than, excited about it being hot. And I have a high tolerance for hot weather.
That's the Aussie in you.
Yeah, that's why I moved to Queensland. Couldn't handle Victoria any longer.
I'm the same way. Like, I prefer a hot day over a cold day. And like, we're melting in New York now. But when you said 40 degrees, I was like, oof, you beat me on that one.
Oh, that's my threshold. That's when it's too much.
I'm tapping out at like 30 degrees Celsius. So
rough day for you then.
Yeah. It's gonna be a hot summer. For everyone in the US, because there's a lot of people who use Fahrenheit, 30 degrees Celsius is roughly around like 90 to 100 degrees.
I was wondering, so I'm glad that you converted it. I didn't want to pull out my phone and be rude. All right, cool. All right, let's go ahead and get started. If anybody has questions throughout the presentation, by the way, feel free to drop your questions in the chats. People will be getting back to you from the Yotpo team. But let's start with a quick round of introductions because I'm kicking things off. I can start myself. My name is Gabe. I'm the general manager of Yotpo SMS. I've been at Yotpo for 5 years at this point, which is a lifetime in tech. So I've seen the company through many different iterations. I've worked with hundreds of brands on their SMS marketing programs, one of those brands being Princess Polly, who I have a long-standing relationship with. So it's great to see Hillary here. And then I feel like I'm in the presence of LinkedIn royalty because everybody knows Jeremy if they're in the e-com space. So I'll pass it to him to introduce himself.
Thanks, Gabe. Let's see if I can live up to that. So for everyone who isn't familiar, hi, my name is Jeremy Horowitz. Quick background on myself. After working and managing a couple of e-com brands, I've been back and forth on the SaaS side. And what most people probably know me for is a lot of my analysis of the e-com space between apps, revenue, public companies, where is everybody performing, where is everybody at, how I'm here today. The Yotpo team and I have been working for the past 3 months on analyzing, and what we're going to really cover today, what is the state of SMS performance across the portfolio of apps that are the brands that are really doing well with SMS. We're going to dive in and have a lot of fun discussions around some data. And then I'll toss over to Hillary to introduce herself because she's been brave enough to share her awesome war stories with us on what is and isn't working well for SMS over at Princess Polly.
Thanks, Jeremy. Yeah, that's right. My name's Hillary. I am the CRM manager at Princess Polly. I've been working in the CRM space for about 9 years and Princess Polly for approaching 1. And I have the pleasure of working closely with Gabe and the team over at Yotpo on our SMS strategy, which is a crucial part of what I do in the CRM space at Princess Polly. SMS is one of our strongest channels. And so I work on optimizing that. And I've had the pleasure of building quite a strong strategy around, some of the things we're talking about today. So it's crazy that this report has come out and there's a lot of alignment on what we're seeing with our insights.
Love that. I also want to note, I know at a lot of these events, they're chock full of buzzwords and maybe impractical insights or impractical tips. We try to stay away from that. We're sharing real numbers, real strategies, real successes and failures in the hopes that you leave this with practical tips that you can go and apply to your own SMS marketing programs. Cool. Before we get into the sweet stuff, though, Jeremy, would love to hear from you. Just an overview of the analysis that you conducted.
Yeah, so I'm going to quickly dive in. For everybody, the data set that we're going to be talking about today at a very high level, we looked through over 700 different brands, analyzed over 1.5 billion texts sent. It ended up being just shy of about $1 billion in SMS attributed revenue of the data set we looked at. And then we cut it a bunch of different ways. How are flows performing? How are campaigns performing? How are different levels of segmentation performing? Should you use emoji? Should you use MMS? All these different components to figure out what is really driving the needle and really moving a lot of brands' performance. All of this data is going to be represented off of the standard attribution within Yotpo's data set. And then the other piece that we added in outside of all of your usual metrics for SMS, like revenue, sends, budget, and revenue per send or revenue per message, is we added in this metric called cost per order. You'll see it pretty typically on the paid media side of the house, but essentially, what did it cost you in SMS, in your SMS budget to drive that sale and to layer it on? We're not going to dive too deep into the proportional weighting of attribution and all those other components, but we wanted to provide a breadth of data to really understand where can I push and where can I pull different levers to get the most success and the most return out of my SMS program.
It's funny, I'm inundated in this stuff all day, every day, but I found the report super insightful. And I know you've been going back and forth with the Yotpo team for 3 months, often multiple times a day. So really appreciate the effort that you put into this. And we've already taken a lot of these data points and insights and put them into sales pitches and blog posts. So super valuable exercise and really looking forward to talking about it.
Awesome. Love to hear it.
Now, Hills. I'm going to call you Hills. Be informal.
Yes. Yeah, please do.
Great. We'll love to hear just more about Princess Polly in general. We heard a bit about what you do there, but we'll love to hear about the company.
Yeah, so Princess Polly is a global fashion retailer. We have a mission to drive sustainable and accessible on-trend fashion to a younger audience of women. And we have established, since we started in 2010, a really significant following. More than 3 million social followers. And, that I think speaks to the reach of the brand. I think in Australia, it's a bit of an icon. It's been around for so long and it's a huge player in the market in terms of this kind of on-trend fashion that, a lot of people are wearing. But then we've recently kind of exploded in the US as well. And, our headquarters originated in Australia on the Gold Coast. And we now also boast headquarters over in LA as well, which is awesome.
Yeah, been in the Poly office and it's incredible. And you opened a brick and mortar this year, right? Recently?
That was actually last year. That's been an incredible, piece for us. Watch that space, I should say, as well, because we've taken a lot of insights from that, which will be driving the brand strategy ongoing. It's a great way for us to kind of create this omni-channel customer experience. In the CRM space, we're always trying to drive, the physical and the digital world. And a lot of our campaigns, sort of are aimed at driving things like foot traffic or, the post-purchase experience in store as well. So there's just heaps of opportunity there.
And could you give just maybe at a high level, like the story of the arc of SMS at Princess Polly? It's a relatively newer channel, at least compared to email. So when did you guys start to really rev up your SMS efforts, and what role does it play in your marketing strategies today?
It's a pivotal part of our marketing strategy. So I think, in terms of the SMS journey at Princess Polly, I don't think it's, too much to say that Princess Polly was a bit of a trailblazer in the way that they started leveraging SMS a few years ago. I think SMS, the way that we view it as a channel is vastly different than the way other brands kind of view it. There can be some sensitivity around, customers receiving an instant message. I think because we've cultivated this brand that our customers know and trust, that we're in a position where we can, reach out to them on any medium and they'll engage. And so, having that basis, the Princess Polly team has, kind of invested in SMS a couple of years ago. And since then, it's just exploded as a channel for us. And so we now look to that almost, as a priority over email subscription because of the way that customers engage. We've prioritized subscription, to this. And, we're nurturing our customers in every way through SMS. And it's really driven dividends for the brand.
Nice. Yeah, it's been cool to be like an outside observer to the growth of the channel for the brand. So great to hear that.
There's been so much happening and there's so much more to come as well.
Nice. Okay, Jeremy, share your wisdom with us. Let's go through some insights.
Yeah, so I think where everyone's going to want to start, how do we make money? Where does the money come from in SMS? So I think the big insight of where we started here and kind of how I want to frame the whole conversation is it's basically a 50-50 split, with most brands' revenues coming half from flows and half from campaigns. So when you think about it, automating those key lifecycle moments is going to be the backbone of the program. And then how can you layer on more and more performance with campaigns? I think the crazy data point and the flip side of that everybody should really be aware of is 88% of brands' SMS budgets went to campaigns, 12% went to flows. So for everybody who's familiar with the 80-20 rule, this is another perfect example of that, where you're going to have a very small percentage of your actions account for an outsized portion of your performance, and the invert as well. And just from a sends perspective, that's about 115 million SMS campaigns and individual messages went out through all of these flows. And that's 1.4 billion text messages that went out through campaigns. So really understanding like where's the core, what's the most important pieces to really invest in. Obviously, it's going to be those flows. And then really what I'd like to impart with everybody here is being a lot more strategic and thoughtful about what campaigns you do decide to pursue, just because that's going to be basically your whole SMS budget. I'm being a little hyperbolic, but 88 to 90% of brands' SMS budgets are going to campaigns. So really being thoughtful around where those investments are placed can make a massive difference in the return of the channel overall.
Yeah, I mean, that checks out with everything that we see on our side. And Hills, it's been a big focus area working with Princess Polly in the last year and a half, especially, is getting smarter with campaigns and segmenting with campaigns, which we'll get to in a second, but also adopting more flows to ensure that the channel is always growing. You're creating more unique experiences through SMS. So could you tell us a little bit about what your flow adoption strategy has looked like in the last year and a half and how that's had an impact on your program?
Yeah, that's right. We've actually doubled the amount of flows live in the last 12 or so months. So, we see it as sort of a really crucial part of our strategy. I think the last 12 months, there's been a real gear shift at Princess Polly in terms of our CRM strategy towards SMS, away from that blast kind of message approach and campaign heavy approach, and toward personalized customer experiences. I think, in CRM, I know personalization is a bit of a buzzword, but I am going to use it here because it is so crucial for, driving customer engagement. And that's kind of what we're focusing on at the moment. And flows are the right way to do that. I think, by responding to behavioral intent from our customers and reaching them with the right message at the right time, you're always going to have a way better, result than when you kind of just blast them with maybe something that, may or may not be relevant to them at the point in time that you're sending it. I think equally, those campaign moments will always have a place, and we do a lot of sale activity at Princess Polly, and it's really important that our customers know when they have the opportunity to get a discount or, we've got a sale running. But I think, creating a really cohesive customer journey from the time that they subscribe, right through every touch point, even those transactional moments that they have, it all is part of that retention strategy of getting them to come back because they know what the experience is, and they feel like we're kind of responding to their behavior in the right way.
Yeah, I think we're at a bit of an inflection point right now in SMS marketing. From 2021 to, last year, I would say maybe mid last year, it felt very much like an exploratory period. Brands were trying to figure out where SMS fit into their overarching strategy. And then after that, I've seen a lot more brands invest more in sophisticated flow strategies. So it's not just about having, regular revenue driving flows enabled with one step and no conditional splits based on who the recipient is. But within one flow, you might have, 15, 20 different experiences so that you can, to your point, personalize the way that you're speaking to each subscriber. And I would also say that the brands that we work with who are doing the best with flows are the ones who are integrating flows with the rest of their key channels. So they'll use our loyalty event triggered flows, subscriptions event triggered flows. They'll collect reviews over SMS flows. And I always like to tell the story of one customer comes to your website, subscribes, they get a browse abandoned text, they eventually purchase. In the post-purchase text, you market the loyalty program, you send them a review request. If they leave above a 3-star review, you reward them points and again, nudge them to join the rewards program. Then you try to convert them into an active subscriber. I could go on and on. But the point is you want to create really cohesive customer experiences through your flows deployment. And certainly I've seen that Princess Polly does that and has taken.
I was going to say, just described our exact flow strategy
exactly.
to a T. That's pretty much the experience that we're trying to cultivate. But we're also really driven by insights and kind of test and learn strategies as well. And, we incentivize where it makes sense and where we think a customer would appreciate that incentive. But we're always testing, what's the right offer at this point in time, using, our analysts to kind of drive some customer analytics around the best timing to remarket or retarget our customers, if they haven't taken a certain action. And insights is also a huge part of that. And as we build out more flows, we're kind of, learning more and more about what we can do and what works best.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jeremy.
I was just saying the data also backs all this up. So while they're not necessarily the highest overall revenue driving flows, a lot of these like key, what I consider like key customer moments or key lifecycle moments showed up in the data as well. Like Gabe, to your point, when you welcome someone to the loyalty program or you send them the, hey, you just received your reward, the loyalty welcome has 100x ROAS on that flow. And then when they get the like, hey, you received points, that has 300x ROAS on those messages in aggregate. For the subscription, just even the basics, hey, your payment failed and managing your subscription, all of those flows have a 330x plus ROAS. So it's just basically printing money by just setting these things up. And I agree, like this is such a key area where not only from the like ongoing perspective of the performance, but also like when you think about your team's time, you make the investment once, you maybe nurture it every quarter, every 6 months, but it's just constantly making you money versus the constant cycle of, we need to come up with a new thing this week, we need to come up with multiple things this week. And so it's definitely worth like breaking up the team's time to invest in it up front. And then what I've seen a lot of other brands do as kind of keeping it always fresh is then overhauling it during the big campaign or product launch or event. So it becomes just, tweaking the messaging, tweaking the images. And those couple of key things, especially when you just focus on like the real money makers, can be a huge, huge lift, just especially with how much traffic goes through a website during those key moments.
Yeah, I think there's a misconception that like everything you do in SMS has to be revenue oriented. And I'm not saying that you should like run a nonprofit with your SMS program, but every touch point, like those milestone moments that you celebrate or you engage, it creates more loyalty to the brand. It's a better customer experience. And ultimately you're investing in retention in the long term. So again, in the last, I would say year and a half, I've seen a lot more brands adopt those kind of educational or milestone related touch points that don't necessarily have a CTA to shop, but instead get them more ingrained in their other key channels outside of SMS, like a rewards program.
Yeah, and I think that's been a huge part of it for us. Our loyalty program that we do work with the Yotpo team on as well has been, just exploding in the last 12 months. And we've kind of identified all the best moments to kind of speak to customers about it through SMS. And obviously it's a smaller audience. The engagement with loyalty happens to be, more point in time. So you don't get those blast audiences, but the return that we're seeing on those is really significant.
Cool. So I would say, just staying on theme of the webinar, you should trash basic flow strategies, trash a deployment or a program where you have, 3 core flows set up, and you should, what's the opposite of trash? Anybody have a good idea? Clean? Bring to life?
Hoard?
I don't know. Yeah. A more sophisticated flows strategy than you might be doing today.
Definitely. So the next piece that I want to dive into that was a really big insight from the report that I also think is a major divergence in SMS than in email is SMS has big Q4 energy. So when we mapped it out month over month, especially even accounting for the seasonality of different verticals, November and December is where people print money in SMS. And even, just calling it December as being generous. So a quarter of the total annual year's revenue across all things SMS comes from those 2 months. But really it peaks out in November with 16% of your entire year's revenue is going to come from SMS. So I'm probably going to say one of the most controversial things today, people aren't sending enough text messages in November. And the reason I feel so confident saying this is when we charted out the ROAS, revenue, and cost per order. So essentially, how much money are we making? What's the return on both the sends and the revenue back, as well as the cost per order? November has both the highest ROAS and the lowest cost per order at the most revenue scale. And so basically what that means in English is you could spend significantly more money in SMS to drive more revenue, and you still have your return to burn down essentially before you even get back to an average. And so I feel like it's like probably very counterintuitive to be like, oh my God, I already get too many holiday messages. Send me your Venmo if I'm wrong here. But down the year in holiday, like I would send more SMS campaigns and lever up your SMS, because it really is one of those channels that, especially in key buying moments, we see this similar kind of spikes and deltas also in May and August, which if you think about it, at least in the States, Mother's Day, Memorial Day, early Father's Day, and then August is going to be back to school. Like these major buying moments, people are signing up for your SMS and they really want those messages. And you really, to Gabe's point, invest in the relationship other times in the year and then just aggressively go for the sales in those key moments because you have such a high touch channel with customers.
Yeah, and Jeremy, when we were reviewing the report originally, you had made a good point about in those non-holiday or non-peak months, investing or maybe over-indexing on subscriber collection so that you could collect and cultivate relationships with those subscribers so that they're primed to convert in those key months. So any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I kind of think of it like farming, like you have your seasons with all channels, and SMS specifically. Also when you think about SMS, it's not a channel where you're like just chatting with a friend and you want to send, nobody wants to send 15 messages back and forth with a brand, just, talking about whatever. Maybe I'm wrong. Please also send me those examples. I'm very interested.
I've seen some crazy chats come through different accounts. Hills, I'm sure you've seen crazy chats in there too. Some that I can't see on this webinar.
I think
so. Awesome. Hopefully your CS team is very on top of those. But I think more of the thing that we saw in the data and more of the standard insight across the board was it's a very high value channel. It's not a high volume channel. It's not like email. People don't want to receive 5 text messages from a brand every week. They really want the most valuable things. And so something that I've worked with other brands in the past and also saw like in the data set was there's definitely dips where performance really drops throughout the year, and it's all dependent on your vertical, but it kind of follows the same, like January and February are usually pretty low, July, October are usually pretty low, like when people are kind of waiting for those key moments. So instead of brands indexing on sending a lot during those times, what I would recommend is more think about like as a farming, like fill up your bucket with as much as possible, get those people excited, hit them with those key automations. Because they also, everybody knows major holidays can be major sales. So it's usually a pretty good time. And then just really try to build up as much as possible so you can release that pressure in those key moments, drive as much sales through the process. And then you can just restart the cycle because there's probably another upcoming major moment that people will buy into.
I think on the first point you made, it's super relevant for Princess Polly's strategy. And I was working with Princess Polly when they sent 1 campaign per day around BFCM time. And now I believe it's 2 to 3 per day. So Hills, could you speak to your strategy during those peak holiday months?
Yeah, I think, to your point, Jeremy, we probably are farming all year round. And we definitely kind of have a year-long Black Friday strategy, in the lead up, which is just about responding to customer behavior and really monitoring, what are they engaging with, kind of pulling back where we're seeing maybe unsubscribes on certain campaigns, and then kind of building that into the way that we speak to customers for that big bang moment around November. We're trying to warm the audience, so that they're prepared. And also so, they know what to expect from Princess Polly. I think our customers know that when there's a sale, they're going to hear about it instantly via SMS. And we're going to make sure that they, it's seamless for their checkout experience. But I think, what that strategy is also kind of doing is, just priming them, but focusing on, getting them prepared for when we do have those sale moments. They know they're going to hear about it. We're not going to stop until they've heard about it. And so, but it works. It's funny. You think that you can oversaturate SMS, and in that period in time, you really can't. And we see our customers engage so heavily, some of them shopping multiple times over that Black Friday period via SMS, because, we in the lead up, we often have different deals. And then also, we usually drive our juiciest offer on that day. So customers are, just so ready to buy, I think. And then to your point about subscription throughout the year, we have a lot of subscription channels that are always on. And I think that we also drive, ad hoc campaigns that incentivize subscription over and above our usual welcome offer. And those campaigns, drive a boost, which is amazing, but they have the added benefit of additional revenue at that point in time. I think our last SMS subscribe campaign had a 20% click rate. So, put that into context for an SMS, that's incredible.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you some unsolicited SMS consulting. If it works, I'm amazing. If it's wrong, blame Gabe. I bet you could send. So if you're sending 4 text messages every day during BFCM now, I bet you could send 6 to 8. And one of the ways to do that is to segment everybody who bought during the day and send them another offer. I've seen this work really well before, where it's almost honestly it's a adapted post-purchase flow, where it's like, hey, because you bought on BFCM, here's another sale that you've unlocked. And you could probably get a couple more text messages out of that. And it's one of those things where like it will go, the amount of people who take that offer versus your first one will be a lot smaller. But now for a couple cents in the text messages, you now have gotten them to spend another purchase and another usually full AOV buy. If it's right, I'd like to take all the credit. And if I'm wrong, it's all good.
We'll check back in December then.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be opportunistic and take an opportunity to plug Yotpo functionality for a second, hopefully in not like a tacky or overselling way, but actually the success that we've seen from brands like Princess Polly, who run these multi-step sequences on key marketing dates like BFCM. We've taken that success and we productized it, or that strategy, we productized it. So we recently released our multi-message campaign builder. Princess Polly was a design partner along with many other great brands from the space, but it allows you to easily execute what Jeremy just recommended and what the Poly team has been doing for a while, which is set up an initial campaign. You can split your audiences within the same UI. You can add multiple steps to your campaign, so you can schedule drip campaigns throughout the holiday weekend. And you can automate what Jeremy just said instead of having to create a segment, send a campaign, create a segment, send a campaign, which can be incredibly tedious. So really excited about that feature because it enables experiences like this.
Oh, so you could run that evergreen. Like if you extend your BFCM by a week, it doesn't necessarily need to be a campaign. You can just trigger it to be whatever, 24 or 72 hours later.
Yeah, and you can also set like a budget limit on the campaigns. You can run it until, I don't know, $10,000 runs out of the allotted budget. There's a lot of cool stuff that you can do with those drip campaigns. And it's super easy to use.
Cool.
So, Hills, this BFCM, I expect.
Oh, it's on. Yeah, we've already started testing it. So cool. I think that, in years gone by, we have employed that more manual method where, we're kind of setting up a campaign and then, pressing send or scheduling it. We have, an aim to have everything scheduled ahead of time, but also there's a little bit of responding to customer data in between. And so, it's a busy time. So looking forward to the efficiency of that release, but also just kind of having a little bit more dynamic kind of opportunities to play with.
Love it. All right, on to the next.
Yeah. So this is kind of going to be one of the old tried and true data points, but I think actually before I dive into this, Gabe, do you want to quickly just explain what the engagement-based segmentation in campaigns in Yotpo is? Because I think it's a little bit of a unique, like how we're going to frame this segmentation data.
Yeah, I would say 3 years ago, the most common segmenting strategy would be use basic purchase behavior from Shopify, ordered in the last 30 days, greater than 2 times, for example. The brands who see the most success in segmentation in 2024, the modern era, are the ones who are looking at, I like to call them like customer cues or customer inputs. Your customer is constantly speaking to you by virtue of their on-site behavior. So behavior-based segmentation would be browse the PDP, but didn't convert. Was active on the website, but didn't ultimately convert. And instead of forcing our merchants to create all of these segments manually, we make it very easy to identify what is your highest intent customer cohort, which is those who are spending time on your website, doing discovery. Maybe they're waiting for an incentive to come to them, or just a nudge to go complete their purchasing journey. And we have a behavioral analytics dashboard that shows you like total on-site activity, total browse abandoned PDPs, and you can turn those analytics into segments for campaign targeting.
Awesome. I'm shocked you didn't say AI somewhere in there. that next release. So basically, looking at that type of segmentation, we compared the performance of all the campaigns that were sent against that data set and that filtering against the unengaged segment. So this is literally just you open up it to the whole list versus using a lot of these customer cues, like that phrase, to really signal where do we want to invest in. And we saw a 17% lift here. So brands that really invested here saw a lift in their ROAS. And I think the insight here is hopefully obvious of you send less campaigns to people who are less likely to purchase. So you get a better return on what you're spending and where you're investing. And then we also looked at, and I'm sure it will vary brand to brand, but also it helps curb your unsubscribe rates as customers aren't getting as many messages that annoy them or that are just like, hey, I'm not ready. Like I need to turn this off until I go to another channel and I'm ready to buy.
Yeah, I don't think it should be a surprise at all that I am not Princess Polly's prime TAM, but I've been subscribed to the program for, 4 or 5 years at this point. I click links every so often, but I've never purchased before. And Hills, actually, since you've taken over the program, I've noticed that I receive fewer text messages, which is a great thing because I've never shown you serious intent to purchase. And now you filtered me out to preserve budget, create a better customer experience. So please take us into this shift in your campaign targeting strategy.
I mean, I think a part of it is probably a little bit flipped on what you said, Jeremy, in that we are starting to, rather than always just target the engaged, exclude the unengaged. So where customers aren't as engaged as they previously have been, we want to manage our unsubscribe rate by, not over contacting them and then sort of save them for when there are those really big moments, those moments around, our best top tier offers, not just Black Friday, but after payday, all of those kind of really big key moments in the year. And so where we have, what I'm calling maybe a soft sale, we have a lot of discount codes throughout the month, and some of them are stronger than others in terms of the offer. Those customers who haven't been engaging, we're excluding to kind of mitigate the loss to their subscription to our SMS channel. And that's probably where you've fallen off, Gabe. So I'll add you as a personal additional question, just the Yotpo team. But yeah, I think that we've seen this as a really strong tactic to kind of manage our ROI and also manage our audience to prevent, fall off where customers feel like they're getting too many messages about things that aren't relevant to them. Someone could be a seasonal shopper. Some of our customers are regular shoppers, but their cadence is once a quarter or once a half. And so they don't need an SMS, every single week. And so we're sort of trying to manage that a little bit differently. I don't know if I'm plugging Yotpo features now, but the recent release around the, exclude unengaged, that's been a big help for us because it really just identifies them in the moment. We also have, through our segmentation practices, like what we would identify as not engaged from Princess Polly, but, as a Yotpo feature, I think even in and of itself, that's, it's really aligned with what we're doing.
I would say of all the shitty strategies that I've seen in my time working in the SMS space, generic batch and blast campaigns are the ones is the strategy that brands absolutely need to trash. Obviously, this is a strained macro environment. A lot of brands right now are not optimizing for top line revenue growth. They're optimizing for profitability. And you are not going to get anywhere if you continue to send batch and blast campaigns to customers who have never shown you that they have serious intent to purchase. And I always like to say your customers are talking to you all the time. They're talking to you by virtue of going to your website and browsing a PDP. Again, they're telling you, I'm doing discovery. I'm close to making a purchase. So I beg brands sometimes to just listen, come up with the right segments that reflects that you understand your customers and you understand customer cues enough to engage a lot more effectively.
Yeah, and on the flip side of that, I think we are also really cultivating our brand with our engaged audience who are purchasing and clicking and taking all of these actions that we're driving them to take. And, we've kind of come up with some less sales driven, less conversion, focused campaigns. And the performance of those has actually blown us out of the water. And it's kind of formed the strategy of how we continue to speak to our customers through SMS. We did a Valentine's Day sale. Sorry, it wasn't a sale. misspoke there. It was actually just a warm message to customers about, self-love being the best love. There was no real, drive to purchase. It was just about connecting with them. And the ROI on that was 3 times what some of our sale campaigns deliver. And they also are very strong performers. So we were really surprised. And I think we just got the audience right. The customers really engaged because we recognized that they like Princess Polly and they like engaging with the brand, and they felt sort of the warm and fuzzy from that message.
Yeah. I think to me, the greatest insight I had looking at all of this data is every brand is sending too many messages and not enough messages at the same time. Yeah. And I think that is a perfect example of kind of like that bigger insight is I'm gonna pretend to be in the Princess Polly team and pretend to be you. I'm gonna guess that you had, from the budget you saved from taking out unengaged subscribers from the other campaigns, you created the budget to test that Valentine's Day concept. Am I on the right path here yet?
That's so right. Exactly true. And we're continuing to kind of employ that method ongoing, because it has really worked for us. Yeah.
And then you essentially created a whole new message that you probably got a lot more volume out of because you're like, hey, we can really test this and scale this. It blew performance out of the water. And now you have a completely new, almost pillar of messages that you can probably replicate and create a playbook around throughout the rest of the year. And just by sending less messages ongoing in the moments that don't necessarily matter, you almost created, and sounds like you almost created a new moment for the brand.
Yeah, I think it's really about kind of creating and building our brand with customers through the SMS channel. We obviously have a lot of channels, customers engage with through social, email. But I think that SMS, some brands perhaps make the mistake of keeping it a bit bland. It's almost transactional in the way that they speak to their customers. And I think that we're really trying to make sure that our customers know that, Princess Polly, the brand is about so much more than here's your discount code.
So two insights, and then I'll let us move on. But to Jeremy's point about preserving budget to reinvest it, that's the exact kind of approach that we're trying to take with the merchants that we work with. We have an ROI calculator on our website, like every SMS vendor in the ecosystem. But our calculator, it's not based on subscriber growth. It's not based on messages sent. It assumes that we'll be able to help you preserve 20% of your budget and reinvest that 20% of your budget into advanced experiences, because we don't want you to generate the same revenue with a lower budget. We want you to use the same budget that you have, but generate 2x the revenue by investing in the right experiences. And the second point that Hill has made about brand marketing and cultivating loyalty to the brand through brand marketing campaigns, like Yotpo is going through that right now, right? Like we had a frown campaign at the beginning of the year. We have a really exciting email campaign that's coming out soon, where the call to action is not to take a demo. It's not to purchase. It's just to build a relationship with the brand and understand who the brand is over time. Cool.
Sticking the theme of 80-20. Really 4 flows are the backbone of SMS. So, and they're actually exactly the same as email with a slight twist. But welcome series, abandoned cart, order confirmation / post-purchase flow, and browse abandonment account for 82% of all overall flow revenue, which, just a quick reminder, is half of your total revenue coming from the channel. So again, this is like just a simple prioritization of, if there's one thing you're going to do if your whole SMS program and you forget your password, is just set up these 4 core flows and really optimize them, just because so much of your overall revenue will come from them. There's a lot of complex strategies you can layer on and get sophisticated over time, but really nailing your welcome, just right through the funnel, welcome, browse, abandoned cart, and then that post-purchase flow will really be the biggest needle mover to get you going. And then you can layer on all those other components we've been talking about to really scale the program up meaningfully. But really it comes back to having a strong foundation, which are going to be these 4 core flows.
I completely agree with you, Jeremy. I mean, our flows, as I mentioned before, are such a strong part of our strategy. But there are some really key standouts. I think you mentioned welcome. When it comes to welcome, we've, I guess, hyper personalized that experience because we have so many subscription channels. So I wouldn't say we have one welcome flow. We have multiple that all, trigger based on the way that someone, first engages with the brand. But looking at all of those together, that's over half of our flow revenue just from that one kind of concept.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned like the unique experiences within a flow. Like the best flows that I see, and obviously it takes time on the front end to create a really sophisticated flow, but they're flows that identify, are they a one-time purchaser, returning purchaser, loyalty member, reviewer, etc. And the brands who really stand out are the ones who create different experiences based on conditional splits like that. So in general, Jeremy, to echo your point, like sophisticated strategy is great, but don't sleep on the basics. Like if you don't have these basic flows enabled, then you're not getting the most out of your SMS channel.
Yeah. Gabe, what are some of your favorite examples you've seen of other brands who really do? Because I think when I talk to most brands, it's like, oh, I'd love to do that, where it's 5 different triggers and all these different things.
Yeah.
But it's too much work and I'm too scared to, like manage all of these different things. What are some of your favorite examples of how a brand was able to kind of customize, but keep it manageable as well? And Hills, obviously, if you want to share any of the secret sauce.
Yeah. I would point to Dime Beauty. They're a close partner for a long time now, and they have used us for subscriptions, loyalty reviews, and SMS together. And about 6 months ago, they audited their flows deployment, and they identified areas where they could create more loyalty-specific flows within core revenue-driving flows like these. So instead of just sending a browse abandoned text, the trigger will be browse abandoned, obviously. And then they'll check, are they a rewards member? Are they an active subscriptions customer? If they're a rewards member, do they have enough points to make a redemption? If they do, then I'm not going to send them a conventional dollars and cents discount. I'm going to point them to redeem the discount that they've already earned through their loyalty to the brand. And I'm going to make it easy for them by using what we call like a click to redeem URL, where if you shop through that link, we'll convert your points into a discount code and auto apply at checkout. So they're creating really unique and differentiated experiences for their highest value customers, and not just in content, but also in the actual like experience or journey. They're making it super easy to engage not only with SMS as a channel, but to engage with the other channels that they're investing in, like their rewards program.
Awesome. Okay. I think the important part, you also says they audit and went back to do those things. I think a lot of people try to eat the elephant and like just do too many things in 17 versions at once. It sounds like they're layering those components on, like on the back, that they know it's a strong winner. And I'm sure, Hillary, that was the same thing you all did. Like, I'm sure you didn't build some mega gargantuan flow at once. It was build the core, see it successful, add this piece, add this piece, add this piece.
Yeah, and also taking a step back to look at the whole as well. Obviously, we do run CRM campaigns across a number of channels. So making sure that when the SMS is triggering or what the content of that SMS is aligns with the overall experience. So we've mapped that out in its entirety, and we have regular sessions as a team to sort of go through what are the opportunities, what's this experience for a customer, how is this overlapping or not overlapping in the right way. And so, yeah, that's a huge part of what we do, but it certainly wasn't, day one, all the bells and whistles. An iterative approach is definitely, and it's the best way for us to test and learn and understand what works, and then, leverage that somewhere else.
Great. Yeah, and that's the other piece, right? Like you have a welcome email flow, other channels that you can weave into this as well.
Yeah, I think for us, that post-purchase experience, you mentioned kind of like loyalty personalization, Gabe. Loyalty acquisition is a huge part of what we do. And we obviously check if a customer has made a purchase, whether or not they're part of the loyalty program. If they aren't, they're missing out. So, making sure that they're aware of that, driving them to sign up. And then once they have, there are a whole bunch of touch points around their place in the program. What are their points? What are ways that they can earn points, become available to them via SMS and other channels. So, we're trying to make sure that customers, know what the best opportunity for value is. And we've got all of those data points across our flows, which we can use to kind of help them.
That is why I point to Princess Polly as the gold standard of marketing. Let's move on to our next and final insight.
Yeah, so I think also just really relying on that point of thinking like, okay, so the majority of our revenue is coming from that welcome flow and really like introducing people to the brand. We looked into where are most of the actual subscribers captured from. So where are brands capturing the most number of subscribers? 51% are still captured at checkout. So to kind of leave us on an area of opportunity, we're looking at one of the lowest points in the funnel of where we're capturing the contact information when the welcome series is one of the highest revenue generators. And so it was about 30 to 35% if you add in the spin to win, but just pop-up forms are about a third of total subscriber capture. But just thinking about how we can move this entire process higher up in the funnel, I think as brands get more comfortable with it, as they end, Gabe, as you mentioned, this discovery phase, like how authentically leading into that really top of funnel where I think email has kind of really carved traditionally out its space. I think that's going to be the biggest area of opportunity, because essentially at this point, it's like, okay, we know what the performance is. We have enough data to really understand this at scale. And that current performance is 16% on average of a brand's total revenue. And so if you just think about it, if we can capture more phone numbers higher up in the funnel and feed those programs that are driving so much performance, it should really just unlock that next major level of growth, which then, kind of like pouring champagne on a champagne tower, it'll just continue to pour over and over and over, and continue to unlock these new customer experiences, which should, brand value, engagement value, revenue value, continue to just grow the channel. And, what's exciting is this like a 5 to 8 year old really channel meaningfully in this game, like emails going on 30. There's so much more room for opportunity to make this such a larger part of most brand stack.
And Hills, you mentioned at the beginning that collecting SMS subscribers is a big point of emphasis. I know that you take a bit of a different approach to collecting SMS subs versus email subs. So what is your strategy at the top of the funnel with your pop-ups?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I should probably say that, the success of our SMS program is really not lost on us. It's become our most valuable CRM channel by far. And so as a result of that, we kind of flipped the strategy around, capturing customer data towards an SMS or a mobile first, experience. So where I think a lot of brands are sort of capturing email because there's a lower barrier to data capture there. Customers are often potentially more comfortable providing an email over a mobile number. We've just, totally trashed that theory, I guess, and provided or requested that mobile number as the first kind of data point. Customers are able to provide an email address as well if they want. Yeah, it's probably a bit of a unique strategy, and I can tell you that it works. Customers are more than happy to provide their mobile number because we incentivize it in the right way. We have created a brand that I think customers feel comfortable, hearing from us in that way. And so our subscription, I think we're at 20% year over year on subscriber numbers at the moment, like up on last year. So, this strategy is working. And then all of the things that we have in place once a customer kind of joins with us through that process, support that sort of nurturing of those leads towards becoming a loyal customer. We have every tool at our disposal at the moment to capture those mobile numbers from our customers. We're using pop-ups, web footers. We even have personalization in our emails where customers haven't provided that mobile number yet to drive them there. And so, we're really seeing customers are engaging more and more with SMS over email because of this. And we're not sad about it at all because it's working for us. And I think that, it probably there again, I mentioned before Princess Polly being a bit of a trailblazer in terms of ramping up SMS as a channel. This may even be maybe a bit controversial, but I can't recommend it highly enough because our customers really respond. And we also do run our subscription campaigns, so they drive a greater incentive at periods in time. And in addition to capturing those customers that we can nurture throughout the year, they drive on their own significant revenue for the brand.
Wait, so you're not doing the traditional two-step where you capture email and you capture SMS. You're capturing SMS first?
The two-step is there. The email comes second. Yeah.
Wow, that's a hot take. I probably should have put that in the first 5 minutes, not the last 5 minutes. Have you seen any negative performance to your email program?
Look, I think there's always going to be a bit of cannibalization across channels a little bit, particularly because, as a brand, we obviously have an overarching calendar and our activity is definitely omni-channel. So customers are receiving information about campaigns across all of our relevant channels based on, what that sale or campaign is. And so where you have one channel where you have, a campaign across multiple channels. Customers are only going to convert via one if they're going to convert. And we're seeing gravitation towards SMS for that, but it doesn't represent a loss to the business. And because of the engagement with SMS being actually so much stronger and so much higher, we're seeing like incredible year-on-year results for both channels. But SMS is definitely the driving force behind that.
Got it. So the math is working out.
The math is mathing.
I think it's a good example, though, of KYP, like know your personnel, or KYA, know your audience. And Hills, you mentioned that your target demo is between 16 and 26. And I think anybody in that age group would prefer to receive updates or promotions over text versus email. So you mentioned at the beginning, like this is what works for you because that's your TAM. If another brand has, an older TAM, maybe that strategy wouldn't work for them. But
I'll actually counter that. I worked with a brand before who had 50 plus customers and SMS crushed. Like they thought the exact same thing, and SMS actually crushed way better. Yeah, like think about how much your mom or grandmother texts with emojis.
That's true.
And all that other stuff.
Or they're on Facebook all the time.
It's another one of those where like it isn't necessarily an age thing, which is very exciting because I think that is the assumption most people make. Is like it's only younger customers that will have that same reaction. But I'm gonna guess we're on that next precipice where just every brand will test it, and many factors will determine the success. But a lot more brands will see this similar numbers and similar performance.
Yeah, I think there's also an aspect of optimizing, the channel itself. So I agree. I think our customers are pretty young and they're, all about kind of that instant gratification around, understanding what the offer is. But also, kind of, as I mentioned before, those brand and, more curated moments, using them at the right point in time with the right audience, it kind of helps build the channel up to be this, rich media experience, which people have always looked to email for. But I don't think that, email is the only channel where you can kind of create that for your customers. I think, there's all sorts of ways that you can drive a more engaging SMS experience than just a code.
You prove that out time and again. Cool. We can move to the next. So that's it. And before I talk about why there's a QR code on the screen, I just want to, again, thank Hills and Jeremy for joining us, and Jeremy for all the hard work that he put into this report. Cannot wait to circulate it. If you scan this QR code, you can download the report. We're also going to send it in a follow-up email along with the recording. But again, Jeremy, seriously, on behalf of the Yotpo team, it's been wonderful working on this. I've learned so much from our own data set, so really appreciate the effort that you put into it. And then Hills, you know how I feel about the Poly team. I can't say enough good things. I really appreciate you taking almost an hour to talk about some really cool and creative strategies. I always say that these webinars, they're very easy if you have the right personnel on the webinar with you. So I'm grateful to have had an hour with you both to talk SMS strategy.
Well, likewise. Thanks, Gabe.
Appreciate it. Appreciate the time, and hopefully everybody got a lot out of it today.
All right, thanks, guys. And bye, everyone.